In 1912, a demonstration train departed Lexington, Kentucky. It traveled 2,453 miles across the state, making 108 stops. More than 70,000 people either walked or rode horseback or in a buggy or one of the first Model Ts to see this wonder. There was a new national field of study: domestic science. Some of the earliest programs in home demonstration extension were conducted from that train. A course of study in home economics was added to the January 1914 Farmers' Week. Soon after, 17 women were hired as home demonstration agents, 5 of them black. They worked during the summer months. They gathered women in homes, under shade trees in the yard, under shelter houses, at churches, anywhere to give demonstrations and talks on food production and food preservation. With the passage of the Smith-Lever Act in 1914, federal funding for extension was formalized. In Kentucky, full-time home demonstration agents were hired in late 1914 and 1915. These early workers begged, borrowed, and did everything but steal a little equipment and a few supplies to deliver their programs. It was a difficult time. The war impacted the economics of the country. Extension programs were affected, and the funding needed to provide those programs and personnel to work in those programs changed. Emergency funding provided increased staff to help families with food production, preservation, the need for dietary changes, and how to use substitutes. When the war ended in 1918, the gradual normal development of home demonstration programs began. Emergency funding ended, but the women did not want the programs to end. If a county wanted a home demonstration agent, the women went to work. County funding was needed from the fiscal court or the local school board. When local efforts were met with resistance, women would gather in groups and go before those men to ask for an appropriation. In one county, the speech delivered by a homemaker demanding the rights of the women was so passionate that the judge swallowed his chew of tobacco and the women got their money. The first manual for home demonstration clubs was published in 1922, and then Ms. Myrtle Weldon was hired as state leader in 1924. The home demonstration extension movement in Kentucky was well on its way. By the end of the 1920s, Kentucky had 29 county home demonstration agents, and most of those counties had formed a county organization for home demonstration clubs. The club programs were focused on securing hot school lunch programs for community schools, learning how to do home furnishing projects, increasing sewing skills, and improving oneself with physical fitness and disease prevention programs. In 1928, the first Master Farm homemakers were recognized with sponsorship from the Farmer's Wife magazine. Kentucky had 5 honorees in the first group. The 1930s through the 40s. In 1932, the Kentucky Federation of Homemakers was formed to strengthen the voice of home demonstration clubs, further develop leadership, and broaden horizons. Ms. Myrtle Weldon stated, "The contribution of home demonstration work to the welfare of rural people is evidenced materially, aesthetically, socially, economically, physically, and spiritually." The Great Depression. Really hard times for a lot of Kentucky families. Extension programming emphasized teaching families to produce and preserve food, how to make wise selections of purchased food, and manage family life with only a small expenditure of money. The flood of 1937. Home demonstration agents responded by mobilizing volunteers, managing emergency kitchens, organizing sewing groups to make clothing for refugees, supervising the work in flooded homes, and helping families recover. World War II, more trying times. Home economics extension focused on national defense programs, helping families deal with rationing, nutrition, and repair and renovation of cloth and home furnishings. Those were the hard years, years of self-denial, years when the agony of separation and the dread of an official message haunted every home. Suddenly, geographical differences were forgotten. Everybody was fighting for one great cause. Perhaps years of homemaker training had prepared women for just this crisis. More keenly than ever before, each homemaker realized she was an American citizen, and she had a responsibility to her nation as well as to her family. By 1947, there were 81 home demonstration agents, 879 homemaker clubs, and 17,737 homemaker members. (1950s through the 60s). In 1954, the Farm and Home Development Program was funded by Congress, and in Kentucky, that meant there was focus put on the farm and the farm family as a total unit, with emphasis on management, public affairs, and marketing. Home economics agents worked with county ag agents on matters such as civil defense and education about Social Security benefits. Extension audiences were expanding from traditional farm families to include more and more non-farm participants. There was an emphasis put on increasing home management skills and reaching out to younger audiences. Planning healthy meals and making healthier food choices within the families were issues concerning Kentucky homemakers. Women were also working outside the home more and more. Planning becomes very important when time becomes limited. Systems for being efficient at household tasks were created to meet the modern woman's needs. The marketplace was exploding with new products to make home laundering quicker, ironing easier, and cooking faster, and everybody wanted to know how to make cleaning your house less of a burden. It was also a time of worry brought on by the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. But once again, the Extension Service was at the forefront of providing the needed information for families about preparedness. Civil defense materials were distributed and explained to homemaker groups regarding how to protect themselves and their families from fallout, how to store needed supplies for a family shelter, and also information on care, feeding, and entertainment needs in case of attack. Plans for shelters were available from the office, and it was stressed to homemaker members to spread the word among friends and neighbors that weren't a part of homemakers. The war on poverty included efforts by Extension to increase contact with disadvantaged people, to improve their nutrition by teaching, one-on-one, the skills such as cooking, budgeting, and meal planning. In 1967, there were 135 home demonstration agents, and there were 26,000 members of the Homemakers Federation. (1970s through the 80s). The expanded food and nutrition education program continued to expand during the late 1970s and 1980s. FNEP began using a classroom on wheels to expand outreach and eventually had 3 such units in use throughout the state. In 1977, the Kentucky Extension Homemakers Association initiated the Ovarian Cancer Research Program, a program that has provided more than $1.3 million to support ovarian cancer screening and research. KEHA also implemented the Family and Community Leadership Program and partnered with home economics agents to establish Sharing Ourselves, or SOS, learning networks. Home economics agents continued to use radio to deliver and promote their programs. Television programming also became more important. The economic crisis of the 1980s, which especially impacted farm families, created a need for programming focused on family financial management, stress management, and family living. Remember the energy crisis? Energy conservation programs became very important. Environmental programs also emerged, including a focus on radon, solid waste management, and recycling. Changes in family structure, shifts in the age distribution of the population, increases in the number of working mothers, and a transition to more part-time farmers all impacted Extension programming. Home Economics Extension developed new programs in family resource management, family communication, retirement planning, housing, emergency preparedness, and community development. During this time, it was not uncommon for there to be a hiring freeze on Extension positions, but all 120 counties continued to support home economics agents. '90s into the 21st century. The new millennium and a technology explosion have revolutionized Extension programming methods. Internet access has moved to every agent's desk with desktop and laptop computers. Mobile phones provide 24/7 communication, expanding to provide Internet access everywhere. Agents now communicate with new instant messaging to connect with others anytime, anywhere. Mass media, radio, newspaper, and television connect with the public in every county. Social media and Internet communications are allowing people to friend, tweet, post, link, and share photos and videos. Relationships are built and enhanced, and new strategies are being used to market upcoming programs to hundreds of clientele in minutes. Yet we face a greater insecurity than any other time since the Great Depression. Insecurity regarding finances, long-term health, and family resiliency dominate family programming needs. Remember the Kentucky Uglies, the lowest health statistics nationwide? Extension has found outreach in those areas with partners and expanded resources through programs such as the Health Education through Extension Leadership Program known as HEAL, Second Sunday, and others. The Managing in Tough Times initiative and MoneyWise website offer educational tools and information for a wide range of topics, including planning for retirement, managing family budgets, refinancing mortgages, and understanding long-term health care costs. Partnerships have been formed, like with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture to help create the Pride of Kentucky cookbook, and Plate It Up, a Kentucky Proud program. FCS Extension is helping families access and use the freshest and the safest local foods, providing support for the local rural economy. We nurture families and encourage clientele to embrace life as we age. From making healthy lifestyle choices to promoting healthy homes and communities, we are building and enhancing family assets. Through Extension, we are strengthening communities and building the next generation of community leaders.